I'm Greg Bliss, and this is the 4th year I've come to the forum, and every time I come here, I really appreciate looking at the best practices and taking some of them back into my practice with the support of the folks from Denison. So today I'd like to share with you the top 10 things from the 2013 Best Practices Forum that I've learned. Lightning bolt number 1. It's really the linkage between leadership and culture and just how powerful that is. If you don't attune yourself as a leader to the culture of the organization, you won't manage the culture will manage you. Tip number 2. Everybody knows the axiom that people don't leave organizations, they leave managers. But what's the cost of poor leadership and poor management? Well, it's about 7 times their salary to replace them in terms of not only the recruiting, but the productivity and the repercussions that ripple throughout the organization. The other interesting thing is that you have a bad leader, you also have double the turnover in that department amongst their direct reports. So if you're looking for a weak signal in your organization, look for turnover that's high, and you'll know that you've got a cultural issue in that part of the organization. The next tip, top leaders, when they come into a new position or they come in from outside the organization, have a window of judgment. Those impressions of that leader and whether they're viable and whether they're going to stay in that organization happen in the first 2 months. Number 4, one of the things I appreciate about Denison is the research that they do. They've done some research on the new modules that they have put in. A couple of axioms here. If you're new to the modules, if you've been using the culture survey before, only use one. And the reason being is that you don't want to misguide the emphasis between the culture survey, which is really about the collective, and the insights of the additional module, which tend to be more personal. So if you spend too much time in the personal, you aren't really leveraging the links to business performance that are in the main model. Number 5, culture is not devoid of a heart. In fact, the strongest cultures have the biggest hearts. Hurricane Sandy was one of the things that we heard from 2 of our main stage presenters, both the New York City transit system and also JetBlue. How both of those organizations not only prepared their systems for it, but took care of their people within that crisis was phenomenal. It's not just about the customer, it's not just about making money, it's about nurturing the people who are delivering on the promise of your brand and really taking care of them as well. Number 6, I got to go back to those additional modules. More is actually less. More modules just means that you have more information and more things that take you away from the links to business performance. It's another criteria to use fewer and to be very judicious about what you're adding to the culture model. Learning number 7. How leaders show up and how they attune themselves to their organizations count. And there are 4 attributes in descending importance that really are the meat and potatoes of good leaders, according to Dr. Hogan. First one, integrity. If you fail here, this is like, if you don't pass this bar, you don't get any influence, you know, your time is limited within the organization. The second one is around decisiveness. Make good decisions quickly. The third one is the one that most people get hired on, and that's competence. And finally, the last one is the one that leaders tend to focus on the most, and I think it's misguided. It's vision. Sure, you've got to have it. You've got to know that present statement of the future of the business, but you got to start with integrity. You got to start with the decisions. Vision is important, but if you don't start in those other places, you don't have the same amount of influence and voice. Number 8, still on Dr. Hogan. He's done a lot of research on this, and he has found that 50% of all organizational decisions are in fact wrong. So it's a coin flip. In fact, what exceptional leaders do differently from the rest is they have judgment. They know when a decision is wrong and they shift gears immediately. So agility in an organization is a really important criteria for leadership. Number 9. When everybody gets their circumflex, you have to guard against this being a report card. And many people go, oh, I got a lot of color, great. Done the work, you know, I can rest now, I can go on vacation. Well, that's not the case. A a lot of color doesn't mean everything is hunky-dory. A lot of color just means that you've got to dig into the nuance and see what the strengths of the organization are, but also where the challenges of the organization are, because they're masked by a high indice score, a percentile score. Likewise, if you have a donut of doom, it is not an opportunity to just, sulk and say, and fight the data. In fact, what it is you've got to look into the data and look for the bright spots and grow the bright spots. Bright spots are where things are going right in an organization, where processes are good, and they're already in the culture. So, Xerox them, put them into other parts of the culture because they've already been inculcated and proved within your organization. So, lack of color, don't sweat it. Look for the bright spots. Lots of color, look for the cracks in the armor. Number 10, here's the bottom line. Use the docs, use the 360, use all the tools that Denison has to put you in the path of the most potential. That's ultimately what culture is trying to do to increase business performance. So again, put yourself using that data in the path of the most potential and you'll succeed.